Last week, I uploaded a video about how I am developing my Dominican accent. Now, the main reason why I was even able to make a video like that is because I actually failed at developing my Dominican accent, and I learned a lot from that experience. So in this video, I want to share with you why I actually failed at developing my Dominican accent. The first reason why I failed at developing my Dominican accent was because of confusion. I was always confused about everything Dominican. Last year, 2021, I got my first real exposure to Dominicans and what they sound like, how they speak, what their culture is like, and not just through the computer by watching YouTube or through podcasts and things like that, but by being in the Dominican Republic. And for me, this really blew my mind because it was like their Spanish was completely different from anything that I have heard in my life. And honestly, it didn't seem like it was even Spanish. So for me, it was like I was a baby all over again in this language and just trying to learn everything. So not just the accent, but everything about the Dominican way of speaking. And that has not been an easy goal for me to accomplish. My listening comprehension level is another reason why I say that I failed at developing my Dominican accent, because I think that being able to comprehend a Dominican is one really good way for me to actually develop my accent. Since I was confused all the time and my listening comprehension level was so bad, I had a lot of insecurities. And maybe you're asking yourself, how can insecurities be a reason why you failed at developing your Dominican accent? Well, that was because I felt like I was a failure and because I thought that my level of Spanish was just not good enough. So there were many times when I was in the Dominican Republic where I just felt so frustrated. And because of that, I also avoided having a lot of conversations with Dominicans. Imagine this, you go to the Dominican Republic, but then you actually avoid having conversations because of your insecurities and you feel like you can't connect with Dominicans. That was me, unfortunately. So that is why I would say that I failed at developing my Dominican accent with my insecurities, because I missed out on a lot of opportunities to actually increase my speaking skills, increase my accent, and just my overall knowledge of the Dominican Republic and the culture and things like that. Because if I had more conversations, I could ask more questions like, why or how? How do you say this particular word here? Or why do you say this sentence in this way? Now, I did have conversations, but I know I could have had a lot more if I did not have these insecurities. Another reason why I felt so insecure was because I thought that I had to sound exactly like Dominicans to be able to connect with them and to have a good conversation with them. So that really held me back as well when it actually came to practicing my Dominican accent, because I thought to myself, well, since I can't sound like them, maybe I shouldn't try to actually sound like them. I shouldn't try to mimic their accent because I can't speak as fast as them, so I shouldn't even try. So that prevented me from having a lot of opportunities as well when it came to actually trying to use my Dominican accent when I was with Dominicans. I felt very uncomfortable using it because it wasn't very strong, it wasn't thick whatsoever, and I just had no idea what I was doing. So it was better for me just to go back to my neutral Spanish. Another reason why I felt really insecure was because of my overall intelligence level. I didn't feel like I was very intelligent, and one reason for that is because I went to college, I got a degree, and I took college classes for Spanish. So for me, I felt like I should have been more educated, I guess, in the Spanish world. So I should have been doing a lot better. So this is one thing I definitely did not want to leave out in this video, because that was always in my mind as well. And it plays a big part in why I failed at developing my Dominican accent. My overall speaking level in Spanish was also a reason why it was just so tough to develop a Dominican accent. And that is because I've realized after watching a lot of videos of myself last year and even this year is that my pronunciation is actually not that well. So I used to think that my pronunciation was basically perfect because I was a fluent Spanish speaker, but I've started to notice that I've said a lot of words incorrectly, and I'm also saying a lot of sentences incorrectly as well. Now I see that me even attempting to stress the Dominican accent combined with me saying the word incorrectly had a negative impact on me trying to develop my Dominican accent. I had no idea and no strategy for developing an accent in the Spanish language. In 2020, I tried to imitate and I tried to develop my Mexican accent just by watching Netflix, but that did not work very well either, and I ended up getting really frustrated, and then I just stopped following that goal altogether. Now, when 2021 came along and I was trying to develop my Dominican accent, basically the same thing happened. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't read any books on how to develop an accent. I wasn't really watching any YouTube videos. I watched a few of them, but I wasn't really analyzing them and taking a whole bunch of notes or anything like that. So basically, my strategy for developing a Dominican accent was just by listening as hard as I can so I could try to understand what they were saying first of all, and then just trying to stress an accent, just trying my best to imitate exactly what they were saying. And that did not help that much. It helped out a little bit, but overall, it was just a very poor strategy for trying to develop a Dominican accent. As well, I didn't know all the ins and outs of what an accent actually was. I didn't understand what sounding like a Dominican was. For me, it was just, how they sounded. I didn't really have an explanation of what the definition of sound was. But now for me, I understand more that the accent or the Dominican accent is a combination of vocabulary, rhythm, speed, pitch, and tone. So now I have a lot more clarity than I had in the past when it comes to how to actually develop this accent. And because of this realization, I understand more why Dominicans may say things like oíste instead of saying oíste, or why they say verdad instead of saying verdad, or why they say ven pa' acá instead of saying ven para acá. I also failed to practice with my Dominican accent. So like I said, I did go to the Dominican Republic, so I had a decent amount of practice there. And then also in between my first and my second trip to the Dominican Republic, I had practice, but I was very off and on. I wasn't really focusing on how to develop the accent. I was mostly just having conversations with people. So that was very helpful and all, but I was not being really serious enough about trying to develop my accent. And then of course, is a combination of being lazy and then also the insecurities that had a big impact on my failure to really practice with the accent. The funny part of this is I actually got really cocky with my accent because it's not like I didn't have any increase in my accent at all. I did sound kind of Dominican, but what really made me feel like I started to sound like a Dominican is when I had other Spanish speakers tell me that. They would ask me, "Oh, are you from the Dominican Republic?" Or they were asking me, where I was from, because I was speaking Spanish and I sounded kind of Dominican because I could kind of imitate some words here and there that could sound like a Dominican. But apart from that, I couldn't really imitate anything. I couldn't imitate long sentences or nothing like that whatsoever. So because I started having people tell me these things, I actually started to practice a lot less, and I started to become a lot less focused on trying to develop this accent. And this was a big mistake because I thought I knew a lot more than what I actually knew. Now, after my second trip to the Dominican Republic, which was at the end of last year, I really decreased the amount that I was consuming from the Dominican Republic. So I really wasn't watching many movies or TV shows. I wasn't even talking with my Dominican friends as much as I was last year. So this definitely had a big impact on my accent because actually it decreased a lot. And I had no idea that you could actually lose an accent until this year. But that is exactly what happened. And not just my accent, but even my listening comprehension I've noticed has decreased a lot when it comes to the Dominican Republic. And I didn't know that this was possible either until this year. So I feel like I'm kind of starting all over again when it comes to just trying to understand Dominicans and trying to imitate their accent again. So that's why I made that other video about what my plan is. So make sure that you go watch that video, and the link will be in the description box of this video. Now, I'm really curious to hear from you. Have you ever developed an accent in the Spanish language, but then soon after you actually lost it? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you very much for watching this video. I really hope that you can learn from the mistakes that I have made and you can develop your accents, whichever one that you are trying to develop. Nos vemos en el próximo video.